During my business trip, I caught my husband cheating with our cleaning woman on our home security camera. I took control of our finances and promptly filed for divorce. Suzanne's fingers danced across the keyboard, the rhythmic clacking sound blending seamlessly with the soft jazz playing in the background of their spacious home office. The screen in front of her displayed a complex array of financial charts and data, but to her, it was as clear as a sunny day. As a renowned financial analyst, Suzanne had a flair for transforming the chaos of numbers into coherent strategies. She glanced out the window, her gaze drifting over the well-manicured lawn of their suburban home. It was a picturesque setting that she and her husband Arnold, a charismatic businessman, had built together. Their life was the envy of their social circle, a perfect blend of success, love, and luxury. Arnold's laughter echoed from the living room, snapping Suzanne back to reality. He was on a call, undoubtedly charming another client with his persuasive eloquence. She smiled to herself, pride swelling in her chest. They were a team, in business and in life. While he expanded their network with his sociable nature, she was the brain behind their financial success. The ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the hallway reminded her of time slipping away. She saved her work and shut down the computer. It was their tradition to have dinner together, a sacred time where they shared their day and plans for the future. Suzanne believed in the power of these small routines to keep their marriage strong. As she walked towards the kitchen, she admired the artifacts and paintings adorning their home, each piece a testament to their travels and shared interests. The aroma of roasted chicken filled the air, a scent that promised a delightful meal. Arnold loved her cooking, often joking that her culinary skills were what won his heart. "Smells amazing, Suzanne." Arnold greeted her with his usual warm smile as he entered the kitchen. His presence still sent a pleasant shiver down her spine, even after years of marriage. "Only the best for you," she replied, returning his smile. They moved around the kitchen in a well-practiced dance, adding finishing touches to their meal. The conversation flowed effortlessly, covering everything from Arnold's business deals to Suzanne's latest investment ideas. Dinner was a lively affair, filled with laughter and shared dreams. They talked about a potential vacation to the Amalfi Coast and the new art exhibit opening downtown. Arnold listened intently as Suzanne explained her latest financial strategy, his admiration for her intellect evident in his eyes. As they cleared the table, Arnold wrapped his arms around her, whispering, "I don't know what I'd do without you, Suzanne. You're my rock." She nestled into his embrace, feeling a sense of contentment. This was their life, built on mutual respect, love, and ambition. They were a power couple, unbreakable in their unity. Later that night, Suzanne lay in bed, Arnold's steady breathing a comforting rhythm in the quiet room. Her mind replayed the day's events, a smile lingering on her lips. She felt lucky to have a partner who supported and loved her unconditionally. But little did she know, the world as she knew it was about to unravel. The perfect life they had so meticulously built was on the brink of being shattered by a revelation that would test the very foundations of their marriage. As the moonlight streamed through the window, casting a serene glow over the room, Suzanne drifted into sleep, unaware of the storm that was brewing. The morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. Suzanne, always an early riser, slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to disturb Arnold. She had a busy day ahead, packed with meetings and financial analyses. As she prepared for the day, her mind was already racing through the agenda, planning and strategizing. Downstairs, the house was silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional chirp from the garden birds. Suzanne loved these moments of solitude. They gave her space to think and prepare. With a steaming cup of coffee in hand, she settled at the kitchen table, flipping open her laptop to review her schedule. Her routine was interrupted by a notification on her phone. It was a reminder to check the footage from the new home security cameras they had installed. Arnold had been skeptical about the need for such extensive security, but Suzanne insisted, citing their frequent travels and the value of their home. Reluctantly, he had agreed. She logged into the security app, skimming through the footage from the past week. Everything seemed normal until she paused on a clip from 3 days ago. The timestamp showed it was recorded while she was on her last business trip. Her breath hitched as she watched the scene unfold. There was Arnold, laughing and talking with their cleaning woman, Maria. Suzanne's brow furrowed, their interaction seemed unusually familiar. She leaned closer to the screen, her heart pounding. The laughter turned into an embrace, not a friendly one, but intimate, passionate. Suzanne felt a cold shock wave crash through her. The mug of coffee slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor, the sound echoing through the silent kitchen. Her world, once so stable and perfect, was crumbling around her. The man she loved, the man she had built a life with, was betraying her in their own home. She sat there, amidst the shards of broken ceramic, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions engulfing her. Anger, betrayal, hurt, each emotion hit her like a tidal wave. But amidst the chaos, a calm, calculating part of her mind began to take over. She wouldn't let this break her. She would not confront Arnold, not yet. She needed a plan, a strategy to secure her future before the inevitable confrontation. For the rest of the day, Suzanne moved through her tasks mechanically, her mind elsewhere. Arnold, oblivious to the storm inside her, was his usual affectionate self. She responded with practiced smiles and nods, hiding her turmoil behind a mask of normalcy. That night, as Arnold slept beside her, Suzanne lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The image of him with Maria played over and over in her mind. The betrayal stung, but it also ignited a fire within her. She was not just a betrayed wife, she was Suzanne, a master of finance, a woman who had faced and overcome numerous challenges in her career. As the first light of dawn crept into the room, Suzanne made a decision. She would use her skills and knowledge to ensure that when she walked away from this marriage, she would do so on her terms, financially secure and independent. The perfect life she had known was over, but she was ready to write a new chapter, one where she was the author of her own destiny. The morning sun rose, casting a golden hue over the spacious kitchen where Suzanne sat, her laptop open in front of her. She had always been the early bird, and today, more than ever, she needed this quiet time. With a steaming cup of tea by her side, she delved into the complex web of their finances. Today's task was different. It wasn't about growth or investment. It was about reclamation and control. Arnold, still asleep, was unaware of the silent war that had begun. The revelation of his affair had changed everything for Suzanne. She was no longer the supportive wife, managing their assets for their joint future. Now, she was a strategist in a game of financial chess, and she was determined to win. Her first move was to secure her individual assets. She transferred her personal investments into a new account, one that Arnold had no access to. She had always believed in transparency in their finances, but now, secrecy was her ally. As she clicked the confirmation button, a sense of empowerment washed over her. This was just the beginning. Next, Suzanne turned her attention to their joint accounts. Over the years, she had played a significant role in growing their wealth, and she knew every detail of their financial landscape. She began to restructure their portfolios, selling off certain assets and acquiring new ones under her sole control. Her moves were subtle yet effective, ensuring that Arnold wouldn't notice until it was too late. As she worked, her mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Each transaction was a step away from the life she thought she had. Yet, in this betrayal, she found a strength she didn't know she possessed. She was not just rearranging their finances, she was reclaiming her independence. The clock ticked away, and soon, Arnold would wake up. Suzanne closed her laptop, her morning's work complete. She had set the wheels in motion, but this was a marathon, not a sprint. She needed to be patient, calculated, and above all, composed. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Arnold was his usual self, affectionate and charming, completely oblivious to Suzanne's inner turmoil. She played her part well, responding with smiles and nods, all the while knowing that each passing day brought her closer to her goal. That evening, as they sat down for dinner, Arnold talked excitedly about a new business opportunity. Suzanne listened, offering the right responses at the right times. But her mind was elsewhere. She was already planning her next moves, thinking 2 steps ahead. Later, in the solitude of their bedroom, Suzanne reflected on the day. She felt a twinge of sadness for the life they could have had, the dreams they had shared. But that life was based on a lie, a betrayal that could not be undone. As she lay beside the man she had once trusted with all her heart, Suzanne realized that this silent war was not just about finances or revenge. It was about dignity, about not letting Arnold's betrayal define her. She was fighting for a future where she could stand tall, unshaken by the deceit that had upended her world. With each passing day, she grew stronger, more determined. The silent war was underway, and Suzanne was not just a participant, she was the mastermind. The autumn leaves were turning, their fiery hues mirroring the transformation taking place in Suzanne's life. With each day, her resolve strengthened, her strategy against Arnold becoming more intricate and decisive. She had become an expert at wearing a mask of normalcy, all while orchestrating the silent reclamation of her independence. Arnold, still ensnared in his affair and blinded by his own deceit, failed to notice the subtle shifts in their relationship. Suzanne's affection had cooled, replaced by a polite detachment. Her smiles were still there, but they no longer reached her eyes. He mistook her quietness for preoccupation with work, unaware of the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. Suzanne's days were a blend of routine and meticulous planning. While she continued to excel in her professional life, her personal hours were dedicated to strategically dismantling the financial empire they had built together. She diversified her investments, securing them in accounts and holdings solely under her name. She carefully documented every asset, every account, ensuring that when the time came for legal proceedings, she was armed and ready. In the evenings, when Arnold would share his thoughts and plans, Suzanne listened, but her responses were non-committal, her advice vague. She had once been his confidant and advisor, but now she held back, guarding her insights and her intentions. The change in Suzanne's demeanor slowly began to register with Arnold. He noticed the distance, the lack of warmth. Small arguments started to surface, sparked by trivial things, a forgotten errand, a misplaced item. These spats were new to their relationship, a relationship that had once been seamless and harmonious. One evening, as they sat across from each other at dinner, the tension was palpable. Arnold, frustrated by Suzanne's aloofness, attempted to bridge the gap with light conversation. But his efforts were met with polite, yet disinterested responses. The air was thick with unspoken words and unaddressed emotions. "What's wrong, Suzanne? You've been so distant lately," Arnold finally asked, his voice tinged with a mix of concern and frustration. "Nothing's wrong. Just a lot on my mind with work," Suzanne replied, her voice steady, betraying none of her inner turmoil. Arnold wasn't convinced. "It feels like more than that. We used to talk about everything. Now, I feel like I'm living with a stranger." Suzanne's heart ached at his words, but she held her composure. "We're both busy, Arnold. It's just a phase, we'll get through it," she said, offering a faint smile. But Arnold was not reassured. He sensed a chasm growing between them, one he couldn't fathom. The woman he knew as his wife was slipping away, replaced by someone he could not read. The evening ended with an uneasy silence. Suzanne retired to bed early, while Arnold stayed up, lost in his thoughts. He replayed their interactions over the past weeks, trying to pinpoint where things had gone wrong. But the answers eluded him, hidden behind Suzanne's mask of indifference. In the quiet of their bedroom, Suzanne lay awake, her mind racing. She was nearing the endgame of her meticulous plan. The tipping point had been reached, and there was no turning back. She knew the final confrontation was imminent, and she was ready. Ready to face Arnold, ready to claim her future, ready to step out of the shadows of a marriage built on deceit. The morning dawned crisp and clear, signaling the arrival of winter. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the cacophony of emotions raging inside Suzanne. Today was the day she had meticulously prepared for, the day she would finally confront Arnold. Her heart pounded with a mixture of dread and resolve. She sat at the kitchen table, the divorce papers neatly arranged in front of her. Every financial move she had made over the past weeks led to this moment. She was ready, both legally and emotionally, to end their marriage and start anew. Arnold walked into the kitchen, oblivious to the gravity of the situation awaiting him. He greeted her cheerfully, but his smile faltered at the sight of the serious expression on Suzanne's face. "We need to talk, Arnold," Suzanne said, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of finality. Arnold's eyes widened in surprise. "Of course, what's on your mind?" "It's about us," she began, pausing to gather her thoughts. "Or rather, the lack of us in this marriage." Arnold's expression turned to one of confusion. "Suzanne, I don't understand." She took a deep breath and pushed the divorce papers towards him. "I know about the affair, Arnold. I've known for weeks." The color drained from Arnold's face. He stumbled over his words, a mixture of apologies and excuses spilling out. But Suzanne wasn't swayed. She had heard enough. "I'm not here to discuss your reasons or your guilt. This is about moving forward, separately," Suzanne continued. "I've filed for divorce. You'll find that I've been generous, considering the circumstances." Arnold scanned the documents, his eyes widening in disbelief at the financial terms. It was clear that Suzanne had taken control of the majority of their assets. He looked up at her, a mix of admiration and regret in his eyes. "Suzanne, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen," he stammered. "I know you are," she replied calmly. "But sorry doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change the fact that our marriage was built on trust, and you broke it." The room fell silent, the only sound being the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Arnold signed the papers, his hand trembling slightly. It was the end of their life together, a life that once seemed unbreakable. As Arnold left the room, Suzanne felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was mixed with sadness, but more overwhelmingly, there was a sense of liberation. She had navigated the storm and emerged stronger. In the days that followed, Suzanne finalized the divorce proceedings. She handled everything with her usual efficiency, each step reaffirming her decision. She was no longer the woman who had been shattered by betrayal. She was a woman who had taken control of her destiny. The finality of the divorce brought a sense of closure. Suzanne looked to the future, not with apprehension, but with optimism. She had survived the deepest betrayal and come out on the other side with her dignity intact. As she sat in her home office, now solely hers, she realized that this was not just an ending, but a beginning. A beginning of a new chapter in her life, one where she was the sole author. With a renewed sense of purpose, Suzanne closed her laptop and stepped outside. The winter sun shone brightly, its rays heralding the dawn of a new era for Suzanne. She was free, she was strong, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next.